Welcome to Garden Plants with Jim Putnam. Let's talk burning Love Leucothoe. Burning Love Leucothoe is a real standout in our Raleigh, North Carolina garden here. It's always doing something. This is truly a four-season plant. It's a multi-trunk, low-mounding evergreen shrub. So it has multiple stems coming from the base. It creates a really dense mounding habit. Beautiful lanceolate or long, narrow leaves that are a lustrous green at times of the year, and then they're purple other times of the year. We'll talk about that here in the video. It also blooms heavily early in the spring, and it's just constantly doing something, constantly evolving, and always beautiful. Burning Love is going to reach about 2 to 3 feet in height by 2 to 3 feet in width, or maintainable at that size. It'll probably get larger than that if you let it. It could be pruned after it flowers in the early spring. The flowers here were right around the 1st of April, and it was absolutely covered in flowers. It was amazing. We kind of waited to shoot this video so that we could get a few remaining flowers and some of the foliage color that comes out after it flowers. It has a kind of a drooping or nodding little cupped flower, very similar to a lot of other ericaceous plants like blueberries, like pieris. Pollinators absolutely love them. The flower will become a little red droop later in the season if they're pollinated. Was incredibly showy in bloom. This plant's been in the ground a little over 2 seasons, so we only saw just a handful of flowers that first year, so be patient with that. It did take a 1.5 years in the ground for it to really put on that big flower show. Normally I'm pretty confident in what zones the shrubs that I'm showing off will grow in. We're in zone 7B in Raleigh, and it does absolutely fantastic, but I see zones from anywhere from zones 5 to 10 on these Leucothoe keiskei varieties. And so I don't know that this evergreen grows up in zone 5. There are evergreens similar to this, like pieris, that do. I don't know if it needs a little bit of winter to flower, so that would kind of rule out zone 10 if that's a possibility. Again, I've just never grown it outside of my zone. I'm very, very confident in saying this is going to be hardy in zone 6 to 9. 5 and 10 are my question, but I do see it listed on people's websites from zone 5 to 10, so that may be a possibility. One thing I am very confident about, though, it is a part shade to shade evergreen, which is great because we don't have a lot of leafy evergreens that really like to be in these kinds of part shade or shady conditions. This one is actually getting a good amount of morning sunlight, and then by early afternoon it's in the shade. In our garden, everything kind of has some root protection. So we grow annuals and perennials and things around our shrubs, and that, even at times of the day it's getting direct sun, there'll be things around it during the summertime, kind of preventing the sun from burning the roots on it. And it's very, very happy here with about 3 to 4 hours of direct sun. It probably tolerate a little more than that, but not, that's probably the sweet spot. Good amount of morning sun in the shade in the afternoon. We don't have a lot of great choices for low doming evergreen shrubs on low foundations on the shady side of the house. So this is perfect for that type of condition. Definitely great shade foundation plant. I have a video on my channel, on the HortTube with Jim Putnam channel, actually container planting this. It's a fantastic container plant, great accent. Of course, this would look great mass planted with all those flowers, and then all this beautiful foliage color that comes out on it after that would just be really, amazing in a larger group like that. And then just as the focal point or specimen plant, which is what we're using it for here. Our 4-season experience with this plant is, again, right there at the beginning of April. It went into full bloom. It's super, super showy with green foliage. The green foliage is very, very shiny. Then as soon as the flowers started to finish, we've seen all this new maroon or reddish colored foliage come out on it. It becomes more intensely purple as time goes on. During the summer, there's a little bit of a green up in it. And then in the fall, as the nights cooled off, we saw it recolor up a bit with that burgundy kind of foliage. And then during the winter time, it actually, right before it started to flower, went almost fully green. So it's a chameleon out here in the landscape. It's always doing something, and it's always showy for different reasons. Where you're going to place this in the landscape, these actually like, similar to how pieris are, similar to how blueberries are, they actually like a pretty rich soil. So I'm going to add some compost when I plant this. I'm going to add definitely not wet, but kind of average moist conditions during the growing season. Not a plant that really likes it on the very, very dry side. It is drought tolerant actually, once it's established, but I don't think it really wants to be dry for prolonged periods of time. And it likes slightly acidic soil, and that's, again, that group of plants that, you know, azaleas and blueberries and pieris are all similar in that way. They like slightly acidic, kind of evenly moist soils, enriched soils, and they're all happy in those kinds of conditions in part shade. Burning Love is going to require very little maintenance. You can prune this after it flowers if it needs it. I haven't had to touch this thing yet, because it grows in this kind of perfect dome on its own. If it exceeds the size you want it, you would give it a trim after it flowers. That'd be the best time to do it. And then all that new growth would flush out on top of that. You might get an errant branch here or there that comes out to the side, and you can cut that off whenever. We'll fertilize this entire garden in the late winter and just once a year with an organic fertilizer. We're keeping the weeds away from it. We've got it well mulched, and so it's, you know, it's happy, and they're very, very pest resistant, very deer resistant, just not a lot to worry about with this plant. We'll water it occasionally if it gets abnormally dry, and that's about it. It's really an amazing 4-season plant. This is Burning Love Leucothoe from the Southern Living Plant Collection. Thanks for watching.